Welcome to Sudoku Topology, episode M1, or Puzzle M1, whatever you want to say. I really love the intro videos to these, by the way. Thing. Okay, so... Ooh, end. Not only do I love that, I love that we have my dearest friend from all of Sudoku land. There are Renbon in this puzzle. So a Renbon, and so I'll just hover over this as this is the first puzzle we're doing that have these, have a string of consecutive digits on them, but they can go in any order. So for example, you can see the 4, 5, 6 example here. I was going to mouse over it, but I can't because it'll go away. Or the 4, 5, 6, 7, they don't have to be in order. And also you're not allowed to repeat anything. So you can see there's an X next to the one where the Renbon is filled 1, 2, 3, 2. That's not allowed either. So the purple lines just need to contain a string of consecutive digits. Okay, so what on earth are the regions in this puzzle? How do I describe them? God, there are 19 of them? What the hell? Okay, so the regions in this one are... I think I know what they are, but I also broke the puzzle thinking I knew what they were, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. Things like here, 1 and 2, where they're every possible center, or sorry, every possible 7-cell hexagon centered at one of the internal cells of the grid. So there are 19 regions in total, and they all have this sort of contiguous shape. So I thought I knew what was happening, but then somehow I screwed it up before. But let me show you the thing that I had observed, which I think is important, which is that if I take, for example, the region that I have marked yellow and the region that I have marked green, then what I can notice is because these 4 cells they share in common, these 3 cells must be the same as these 3 cells, because I need to get to all 7 digits, whether I look at the yellows plus these or the greens plus these. And so what that tells me is, for example, one of these 2 cells is a 2, and one of these 2 cells is a 5. But that cell can't be 5 because the 5 is in the same region as this. So that cell, for example, is a 5. Okay. And I think I want to just continue drawing regions here until I can place all the 5s, for example. Now, I say I think because last time I did this, I broke the puzzle, but I think I must have just not been doing this very smartly. So this 5 is definitely in the same region as those 2 cells. This 5 is definitely in the same region as these 3 cells. And this 5 is definitely in the same region as that cell. So I think that tells me that this cell is a 5. And so any region I can draw, I can ask myself where the 5 is, given that I know there has to be one. So this 5, for example, immediately rules out all of these. 5 and 2 are different numbers. That cell's not a 5, and therefore that cell is a 5. And once there aren't any hexagons I can draw that don't have 5s in them, then I'll know that I've got all the 5s in the grid. So so there are our 5. So this region over here doesn't have 5, so that's not 5, so that's 5. Have I now reached that point? I might have now reached that point where I've got all the 5s in the grid. Okay, and so now I can try to place 2s. So I was going to ask myself if I knew where the 2 was in this hexagon. And so I know that It doesn't go in any of those cells. I know it doesn't go in that cell, but I also know it doesn't go here because if this was a 2, I would need to put a 3, 4 along the Renbon. That's not going to work. So now what about these digits? This 2 rules it out of all of those. This 2 rules out of those. Oh, do I actually not know which of these 2 is the 2? Right, because this isn't a center of a region. So, like, that, these could both be 2, I think, at least as far as I'm able to sort of immediately discern. Let's see. What about this one? That might be better. Let's see. Do I know where the 2 goes here? It's not there. It's certainly not there. It's not there or there, and 2 isn't 5. Okay, so I think that cell becomes a 2. Let's see, and so now I presumably can figure out where the 2 goes in here, because it's not going to be in any of these cells, and it's not going to be in those cells, so that cell's going to be a 2. And then if I now look down here... now, those aren't going to be 2, and those aren't going to be 2, so that's going to be 2. So that had better tell me that these 2 cells are going to be 3, 4, because I need to make this Renbon go 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, I don't know what order they go in, so I can't sort of fill that in. I think that's all the 2s in the grid. I'm just scanning to see if there's any place where I'm missing them. So based on this whole hexagon, I now see that I know that these cells are 1, not 2, 3, 4, or 5, and 6 and 7. And so that means that these 2 cells are also 3 and 4 because now I'm applying the fact that this is a region in the grid. So now if I look at this hexagon, now I've got 2, 3, 4, and 5, so that means these cells are 1, 6, and 7. Just trying to decide if I could draw any more hexagons that have that 1, 6, 7 in them. Yes, this one. There we go. Yes. So this cell is the other 3, 4 in that region. I could fill in that I know that these are 3, 4, or 6, 7. I guess, okay, so now I could go ahead and use this this hexagon and say, now I've got a 3, 4 pair and a 2, 5, so these 2 cells are 1, 6, and 7. So we can just continue creeping our 1, 6, 7s, perhaps. Okay, I can now come up here and look at this and actually note that using this region, this digit can't be 4. Because if this digit is 4, now the 3 is on the Renbon, but with no 4. And you can't have a 3 and a 5 on a Renbon without a 4, because then it's not a string of consecutive digits. So this can't be 4. This is a 3. And now the 4 is on the Renbon, so these digits need to be 4 and 6, because there's no 3. So these digits aren't 6. These are 1 and 7, and now that bounces back to this and says that that is a 6. And now that bounces back to that cell via this region and makes that a 4. Through the Renbon makes that a 6, which seems to make that not a 6 and seems to make this cell a 4. Really interesting geometry here. Let's see. This hexagon is missing 3, so that digit seems to be a 3. Let's see. So how can we continue? Okay, so now this hexagon has a 1-7 pair. Oh, and it has a 3 in it, I guess I should say. So that's a 4 and that's a 3. And it has a 1-7 pair, which makes that a 6. That 6 sees this hexagon, so these aren't 6. But now in this hexagon, we now have a 1-7 pair, so that makes that 6. Let's see. These 3, just to finish off this hexagon, are 1, 4, and 7. Oh, and I think this one is the same, right? This one's also 1, 4, 7 to finish off this hexagon. And that 4 doesn't see that 4, I have to remember. I bet that's what I did when I screwed this up the first time. Okay, well, this can't be a 1. Sorry, this is a length 2 Renbon that I had not appreciated. This can't be a 1, because then this would have to be a 2, and there's already a 2 in this region, so this can't be a 1. And it can't be a 4 either, so if this is a 4, this would need to be a 3 or a 5, and those are both already here. So that has to be a 7, and that's a 6. And so that 7 means, of course, this is not a 7. Is not a 7, thank you. So this is a 1 or a 4. Yes. By this to finish off this rectangle, but now shifting my view and looking... Sorry, rectangle. I keep saying rectangle. Hexagon. But now this hexagon, I said it again, has a 1-4 pair, so that's a 7, which now looking at this one makes that a 1. Now looking at this hexagon, it's only missing a 3, so that makes that a 3. That makes this hexagon have a 4 and a 3. So let's see, continuing around, if we look now at this hexagon, we've got 1, 2, 3, so we're missing a 4 and a 7. So these two are a 4-7 pair, I believe. These are a 1-7 pair to finish off that. Okay, let's see, we've got that 1-7 pair. 7 pair. There's a 7 here. So that sees this and says that's not a 7. So those at least are a 1-4 pair. Okay, I'm sure I am just not looking at the right... for example, this hexagon that has everything except for the 1. Normally people would call that an octopus, but that's because usually everything but one thing being filled in means there's 8 things filled in. Here, I guess it's a sextopus. I will let you debate whether that is a good choice of terms or not. Okay, so that's a 7. So the 7 comes over up there. Okay, so this one now sees that cell, so that's a 7, and now the 7 really sees this cell, right? So yeah, so that's a 1. Now this hexagon sees that, so that's a 4. This hexagon sees that, so that's a 7. Okay. I'm sure now we're at the... yes, this one. Here's another sextopus. It makes that a 1, which then makes that a 4, and that one makes that a 4, which makes that a 1. And then we are done. That was an interesting geometry there. The beginning was a little slow. I don't know how much of that was just my not having intuition for this. I was curious if we got any, like, oops, I was meant to stare at that for some longer, but I hit the wrong button. All right, well, back soon with the next one.